Welcome to the Deep Dive, the place where we turn massive stacks of research, dense reports, and historical chronicles into genuinely useful, digestible knowledge.
Today, we are immersing ourselves in one of the most dynamic, frustrating, and innovative cities on the planet, Bengaluru.
I'm glad you said frustrating, because it's
The-
a city famous globally as the Silicon Valley of India. But if you talk to anyone living there, it's often defined by the 3-hour commute and the annual monsoon flood.
That is the perfect setup. It's a metropolis just built on these contradictions. You have this cosmopolitan hub where, centuries-old traditions are meeting billion-dollar startups on the same street.
Exactly. And our sources for this deep dive, they paint a truly complex picture of a city that's grappling with just exponential growth. And the proposed solutions, like the massive Nama Metro project, are almost as challenging to execute as the problems they're supposed to solve.
Right. So our mission today is to really dig in and explore how the city's rich history, its challenging physical geography, and the massive migratory waves of population have impacted three really critical areas.
Okay, what are they?
First, its incredible evolving culinary culture. Second, the crippling state of its infrastructure. We'll focus on traffic bottlenecks and the metro solution.
And the third?
And finally, the essential fight for its environmental and green heritage against the constant pressure of development.
And we've pulled together a really rich blend of material for you. We have these passionate historical accounts that trace the evolution of Bangalorean flavor. We have precise, data-driven studies on the metro's measurable impact on congestion.
And then we have these critical policy reports, and they highlight the startling known failures of the city's urban drainage system.
It really is a study in tension, isn't it? Where the ancient wisdom of Raji Millet is battling the immediate necessity of rapid transit. Let's start with the foundation. I always think if you want to understand the soul of a place, you have to start with what's on the plate.
Absolutely.
And Bengaluru's food culture is described in our sources as an intriguing combination of tradition and creativity. So how deeply rooted are those traditions?
Oh, profoundly. They're rooted in the land itself. The initial culinary identity is traditional South Karnataka cuisine, with a real specialty in Old Mysore flavors.
And this isn't just about taste, it's about survival, about climate.
It's cuisine born from necessity and climate adaptation 100%. You have to remember, Bengaluru sits on the semi-arid Deccan Plateau, and the foundational ingredients, they just reflect that environment perfectly.
So we're talking about staples that are both resilient and, I guess, nutritionally smart for a hotter climate.
Exactly. The core ingredients are rice, lentils, coconut, regional spices.
Yeah.
But the standout, the true king of the plate, is Raji.
Finger millet.
Finger millet, yes. And the sources really emphasize that this preference for Raji is just pure food wisdom. It's fibrous, it's cooling, it's nutrient-dense, it's perfectly suited for the local climate.
A healthy foundational grain that was there long before the tech boom.
Long before.
Okay, so let's say I'm visiting one of those traditional heritage dining halls today. They bring me that classic Bangalorean plate, served the old way on a banana leaf. What kind of culinary structure am I looking at?
Right, well, you'd be experiencing a perfectly calibrated, really well-balanced meal. First thing you'd find is ragi mud.
The famous millet ball.
Those are the ones, these dense, almost gummy millet balls. And the fascinating thing is, you're typically supposed to swallow them whole.
Whole, with minimal chewing.
With minimal chewing. They're served with a spicy sapina saru, which is a kind of greens curry. That provides the moisture and the flavor to help it go down.
So the mud is almost a vehicle for the curry.
It's the quintessential Old Mysore power lunch. It's designed to give you slow-release energy for the day.
I know bisi bele bath is another huge staple. How is that prepared and what role does it play in the meal?
Bisi belly bath translates roughly to hot lentil rice dish. It's this flavorful, complex, one-pot meal.
A bit of everything in there.
Everything. It combines rice, lentils, seasonal vegetables, and a really distinct tang of tamarind. It's pure comfort food, and it kind of acts as the centerpiece that incorporates your spice, your starch, and your fiber all in one go.
And there's often a thinner, more soup-like course, isn't there? I'm thinking of rasam.
That would be the Mysore rasam. And while rasam is common all across South India, the Mysore version is subtly different.
How so?
It's spicy and it's sour, of course, but it often incorporates a slight hint of sweetness, maybe some jaggery, maybe tomato that just sets it apart.
And to balance all that richness.
To cut through it all, you'd have kosambari. It's a truly refreshing light salad made of soaked lentils and finely chopped raw vegetables like cucumber or carrot. The dressing is usually really minimal.
That attention to detail, linking the food directly to what the body needs in that specific environment, it's beautiful. And the source notes that this heritage isn't just being preserved by grandmothers, it's institutions too.
Precisely. This tradition survives not only in the home, but through these huge religious and cultural anchors. Temples, for instance, play a vital role.
Which ones?
Places like the Bull Temple in Basavanagudi or the enormous Ayaskekon Temple. They meticulously prepare and distribute prasadam, the holy food offerings.
And those recipes don't change.
They often adhere to centuries-old, completely unaltered recipes. So the temples, they become these accidental museums of flavor.
That's a great way to put it. Okay, so that's the starting point. But the story of modern Bengaluru is really the story of migration. The city didn't just grow, it absorbed wave after wave of people and their food.
And their plates. The culinary landscape transformed into this incredibly complex tapestry.
So how did these successive waves of settlers start to layer new flavors onto that original millet foundation?
Well, the early regional Indian influences were just massive. For example, Tamil Brahmins came and they popularized their style of sambar, which often has a different balance of lentils and vegetables, and also their classic preparation of curd rice.
And then you have the settlers from Andhra Pradesh.
Right. They came in huge numbers, and they introduced a much, much fierier palate to the city.
That Andhra fire is legendary. What specific dishes really define their contribution?
They brought intense heat. You have to think of the spicy, oily gongura pachadi that's a chutney made from sorrel leaves, which became an absolute staple.
And their biryanis.
And their specific preparations of biryanis, known for just bold spices and vibrant color. They completely changed the perception of what a rice dish could even be in the city.
And speaking of iconic regional dishes, we have to talk about dum biryani because this isn't just about the food, it's about the unique presentation.
That's right. The dum biryani is a specialty that was popularized by the Muslim communities. And the key distinction, beyond the fact that it's cooked and served in the dun.
The dried palm leaf cups.
Exactly. The key is the preparation method. Unlike those richer, more complex Mughalai biryanis, the dun version uses a minimal masala.
Really? I would have thought more.
No, it relies heavily on a unique short-grain rice, which just soaks up the meat stock and spices so intensely. It's less about layering and more about a cohesive, robust flavor.
It gives it a more, earthy taste?
A very distinct earthy taste that sets it apart from all other biryanis.
I love how this mirrors the economic influx. Every regional group, whether it's the Tamil community, Andhra, the Muslim community, they all bring a specialization that enriches the whole market.
Absolutely. And it wasn't just South Indians arriving either. The sources note the impact of communities from the north and west.
Like the Marwaris and Gujarati.
Exactly. They didn't just bring recipes, they brought entirely new categories of food, especially sweet, savory snacks. Think of dokla, kachori, and farsan.
Which would have been totally new to the local scene?
It immediately diversified the street food scene and provided these vegetarian, portable options for a rapidly growing middle class.
And we can't overlook the colonial footprint. The Anglo-Indian population left a very specific, enduring mark that you can still taste in the city's heritage venues.
Oh, definitely. That Anglo-Indian fusion culture provided classics like the railway mutton curry.
Why was it called that?
It was literally designed to be carried safely on long train journeys, so the spicing and the oil level were adjusted for preservation. And you also get dishes like pepper water or specific meatball curries.
And what makes that cuisine so unique is the blend, right?
It's a subtle blend of traditional Indian spices with European techniques and ingredients. It's a true fusion cuisine.
And where do these traditions live today? The script mentions these iconic bakeries that feel almost like time capsules.
They are cultural anchors. You find these colonial echoes persisting in heritage bakeries like Albert Bakery, Tom's, and Koshi's.
They're not just selling bread.
They are preserving a specific slice of the city's past. They're offering things like savory puffs, specific cakes, and unique tea time snacks that date back decades.
Beyond the bakeries, you have the traditional dining venues in those heritage neighborhoods. Malaiswaram, Basavanagudi, Jayanagar. These are the true cultural monuments of old Bangalore food.
These places are just essential to understanding the city's social history. You take CTR, the Central Tiffin Room. It's known for dosas just drenched in butter.
Or Vidyarthi Bhavan.
Vidyarthi Bhavan in Gandhi Bazaar, famous for its heritage-style beni dosa. These places, they maintain the quality, the recipes, the atmosphere of old Bangalore. They've been serving generations of the same families.
And MTR, the Mavali Tiffin Room, is cited as a true pioneer, not just a restaurant. There's a story there.
MTR's innovation is a legendary story of resilience. During the food scarcity of World War II, rice was heavily rationed.
So what did they do?
MTR didn't shut down, they adapted. They started experimenting with semolina or rava, and they essentially invented the ready-to-eat rava idli.
Wow. So that was innovation born purely from necessity.
Exactly. It proves that adaptation is just intrinsic to Bengaluru's DNA long, long before the tech boom.
And for those wanting those regional specialties, the Shivaji Military Hotel is still a pilgrimage site for meat lovers seeking that authentic dum biryani.
It is. These venues provide a vital link to the past. But, the pace of change is just relentless. When Bengaluru became a global tech center, the culinary scene had to match that hyper-modernization.
How did that shift manifest geographically? Which areas became the new melting pots for global food?
Well, the influx of global business meant a global palate demanded satisfaction. So you see this explosion of international cuisines: Italian, Thai, Chinese, Korean, Japanese, Lebanese.
And they're all concentrated in specific areas.
They're concentrated in the tech and expat hubs, places like Whitefield, Koramangala, and Indiranagar. This isn't just catering to expats anymore, but to the highly paid, globally traveled, local tech population.
And the modern trends, they seem to reflect the social lifestyle and, I guess, the health consciousness of that tech demographic.
Absolutely. The sources highlight the dramatic rise of microbreweries and gastropubs. They're perfect social venues for the young professional class.
And at the same time, you see this wellness trend.
Simultaneously, yeah. Reflecting a global shift toward wellness. We see a massive growth in vegan cafes, organic restaurants, and of course, the craft coffee movement.
Right, with places like Third Wave and Lutakai.
Exactly. They are redefining the coffee experience from just a quick roadside cup to this thoughtful, artisanal ritual.
This brings us back to that initial idea of tradition meeting creativity. Are chefs just abandoning the past for international fare, or are they integrating the old wisdom with new techniques?
It's definitely the latter, and this is where it gets really interesting. The innovative spirit of the tech world is now being applied to food heritage.
So they're fusing the past and the present.
They're innovating with local ingredients, but in contemporary global formats.
Like what, specifically? What are some examples?
We see some fascinating mashups cited in the sources. Things like ragi tacos, so the ancient millet replacing the corn tortilla, or jackfruit biryani, offering a rich vegetarian alternative to meat.
I've even seen millet sushi mentioned.
Even millet sushi. These efforts are often very conscious attempts to make heritage food relevant to a younger, globalized generation. And this is supported by preservation initiatives, too.
Like the Bangalore Eating History Project.
Exactly. They work actively to document and conserve traditional knowledge against this rapid current of global preferences.
So the city's plate perfectly summarizes the city itself. It's rooted in the cooling, ancient wisdom of millet, but it's completely open to the fiery innovation of a new biryani or the artisanal complexity of a craft brew.
And that very tension, that tradition meeting global speed, it shows up immediately in the city's physical infrastructure. Or maybe the lack thereof.
Right. We have to pivot now to Electronic City, or E-City, which is the engine driving this whole economic boom.
It really is.
And E-City isn't just an office park, it was a foundational piece of policy. Its history shows that Bengaluru's tech dominance was a deliberate act of creation.
It was indeed. E-City was established way back in 1978. It was the brainchild of R.K. Baliga, who was the chairman of Kionics at the time.
And his vision was explicit.
It was to turn Bengaluru into the Silicon Valley of India. And E-City was the physical manifestation of that future.
The scale is just immense, which must have created a logistical challenge right from the start.
It covers over 800 acres. That's more than 3 square kilometers, spread across 4 distinct phases. Today, it hosts roughly 200 major IT and ITES company campuses.
The big names.
All the heavyweights: Infosys, Wipro, TCS, BHEL. It is a major employment center for millions of people.
And what's really unique is its quasi-private governance structure.
That's a crucial detail. In 1997, the maintenance and the local governance responsibility were handed over to ELCITA.
The Electronic City Township Industries Association.
That's the one. They manage internal affairs, security. They deploy hundreds of security officials, extensive CCTV coverage. They're essentially operating a privately managed township within the larger city's jurisdiction.
But regardless of its internal efficiency, this massive population has to connect to the rest of Bengaluru, and that relies entirely on external road infrastructure, specifically Hosier Road.
And this is where the challenge begins. To mitigate the sheer volume of traffic, a major investment was made. The nearly 10-kilometer-long elevated expressway, which opened in 2010.
That expressway was supposed to be the great time saver. What was the intended impact?
It was designed to drastically cut travel time from the notorious Silkboard Junction to E-City, ideally down to about 30 minutes.
It was a dedicated elevated path over the most congested stretches.
Right. And they also have the Nice Road, a 63-kilometer tollway offering better connectivity to the western and southern parts of the city. These were ambitious road projects designed to bypass the surface-level chaos.
But road infrastructure has a natural limit, especially when you're talking about long-distance travel, like connecting to the airport.
And that limit is the most painful illustration of the gridlock. The Kempegowda International Airport, KIA, is 56 kilometers away from E-City.
56 kilometers. Late at night, that's maybe an hour.
Maybe. But during peak traffic hours, that 56-kilometer trip can easily balloon to 3 hours.
3 hours. That means the CEO, the software developer, the facilities manager, they're all stuck in the exact same time-wasting trap.
It's an incredible productivity sink. The sources even note the desperate consideration of alternatives, like the proposed Hosier Airport,
Which is much closer.
only 28 kilometers away. It could cut travel time to 30 minutes. It just highlights the critical need for a solution.
And there was that brief attempt at a more luxurious fix, the Haley taxis.
The Healy taxis, yes, launched in 2018. But the high fare and the limited access meant they were only accessible to a very select few business travelers. They failed to address the mass transit problem.
This brings us to the true epicenter of Bengaluru's traffic frustration, the Silkboard Junction. Why is this one intersection so critical, and why has it become so legendarily notorious?
Silkboard Junction is the unavoidable nerve center. It sits right where Hosier Road, the main artery to Electronic City, slams into the Outer Ring Road, or ORR.
And the ORR is the connector for the other massive tech hub.
Exactly. The one that includes Whitefield and Bellender. So if you commute between those two major tech clusters, you have no choice. You must pass through Silkboard.
And its reputation is not an exaggeration. It is backed up by some truly shocking data.
Absolutely. There was a 2017 study that found that the average peak hour speed at the Silkboard Junction was a staggering 4.48 kilometers per hour.
4.48. To put that into perspective, most people walk at about 5 kilometers per hour.
You are often moving slower than a pedestrian's brisk pace.
That's why it was cited among the 7 worst bottlenecks in all of India by an industry study. That is collective daily pain right there.
And this congestion has a massive external cost, pollution. Surveys have flagged Silkboard, along with Whitefield, as one of the 2 most polluted areas in the city.
From all the idling engines.
The constant idling engines lead to high residual suspended particulate matter. It's a direct consequence of the traffic health tax levied daily on millions of commuters.
So you have this relentless economic engine, electronic city, demanding connectivity, but its lifeblood, Hosier Road, is just choked at the neck by Silkboard. And minor fixes, like moving a bus stop a couple hundred feet, they're just bandages on a structural hemorrhage.
The sheer volume requires a fundamental shift.
And you've hit on the core issue, the volume. It requires a wholesale shift in how people move. The context of congestion confirms this need for mass rapid transit is no longer a luxury.
It's an economic necessity.
The numbers are undeniable. Bengaluru is the second most motorized large city in India, only after New Delhi. So per capita, vehicle ownership is massive.
And as recently as 2018, it was ranked the second most congested city in the nation, just behind Kolkata.
So what's the actual price tag of all that lost time?
The economic penalty is profound. The productivity lost due to congestion in 2018 alone was estimated at an astonishing $5.92 billion.
$5.92 billion. That number needs context. To put that into perspective, that's enough money to almost fully fund Phase 1 of the entire Nama Metro project. Twice over. The traffic isn't just an inconvenience. It's directly cannibalizing the city's ability to invest in its own future.
Which is why the Nama Metro Bengaluru's metro system is so vital. It's the 3rd largest operating metro system in India, and it's capable of speeds up to 80 kilometers per hour.
Offering the promise of time, of separation from the chaos on the ground.
Exactly. Phase I laid the groundwork with the east-west and north-south routes. But the true game changer is the expansion that's designed to link the tech hubs.
Right. Electronic City will be served by the Yellow Line, the RV Road to Bomasandra line.
And that brings us right back to Silkboard, which requires just engineering brilliance to accommodate the solution. The complexity of the planned Outer Ring Road line, which runs from Silkboard to KR Puram, is staggering.
Can you explain the design of that Ragaguda Silkboard road-cum-rail flyover? It sounds like an urban planner's nightmare.
Well, it's often referred to as a triple-decker solution, which illustrates the extreme constraints the city's facing.
So 3 levels.
3 levels. At the bottom, you have the road surface traffic. Above that, at about 8 meters high, you have a traditional road flyover for vehicles trying to bypass the intersection.
And then the metro on top of that.
And then at the very top, running 16 meters high, you have the metro line itself.
That's the metro running above a road flyover. That requires unbelievable coordination, planning, and the temporary disruption must be immense.
It requires immense structural change in an already hyper-dense urban corridor. But the big question is this complex, high-cost solution actually working?
And we have data on this.
We have some incredibly valuable data from a commuter survey of 122 respondents that gives us a clear look at user perception and measurable impact.
Okay, let's unpack those findings. Let's start with who is riding and why.
Well, the usage figures are high. 84.4% of respondents have used the metro, and the youth are driving this.
What's the age group?
The primary age group is 18 to 25. They account for 41.8% of users. This immediately suggests the metro is heavily relied upon by the city's next generation.
Okay, but here's the finding that really flips the script on the metro's primary function. When you think of a city investing billions to combat $5.92 billion in productivity loss, you assume commuting to work is the main reason people ride.
You would think so.
But that's only 12.3% of respondents.
That is the single most critical insight in this data. The Nama Metro in its current state is not yet the core commuting engine the city desperately needs it to be.
So what are people using it for?
Its primary travel purposes are much more leisure-oriented. Shopping makes up the largest segment at 39.3%, and that's followed closely by entertainment and leisure at 37.7%.
Why do you think that is? Does this low work commuting number indicate a failure of the current alignment, or is it a symptom of that last-mile problem we hear so much about?
It suggests a few things. First, it might be what they call a choice rider system rather than a captive rider system. People are using it when it makes their leisure life better, but maybe the routes haven't perfectly aligned with the major business parks yet.
Or the connection from the station to the actual office is still too difficult.
Exactly. It means the metro is currently serving as a quality-of-life multiplier, connecting shopping and entertainment districts. But its core commercial function is underutilized. That 12.3% figure must grow significantly when the Yellow Line and the ORR line open to truly justify the economic investment.
Okay, but regardless of the purpose, users overwhelmingly feel the metro is a successful project in combating gridlock.
Massively successful in perception.
Right.
A huge 72.1% believe the metro has had a lot of impact on reducing city traffic congestion overall.
And even more in the specific areas served.
An even higher percentage, 86.1%, observed a reduction in congestion in the specific areas served by the metro lines.
And that translates directly into personal benefit.
Of course, 78.7% reported reduced travel time. And beyond just speed, 84.4% believe the metro has fundamentally led to a positive change in the overall traffic culture and behavior of commuters. It's shifting expectations, it's shifting habits.
Let's discuss the secondary benefits, because this reveals the metro as a powerful urban policy tool that goes beyond just movement.
It absolutely acts as an economic and environmental lever. Users strongly believe it encourages sustainable transportation options. And 78.7% overwhelmingly affirmed that the metro has influenced land use patterns and driven development.
And we know that's true. Land prices in areas adjacent to stations have rapidly increased.
Showing tangible economic value creation around the stations.
And it addresses the pollution we found at Silkboard. Users also attribute environmental gains to the system.
They do. They believe the metro has played a major role in decreasing air pollution and improving the air quality index, simply by getting hundreds of thousands of vehicles off the road surface every single day.
So we have clear metrics of success and high user satisfaction. But the source material is also very candid about the structural and operational challenges that still persist.
Right. Let's start with the immediate pain of construction.
The short-term pain is significant.
It is. While the finished product alleviates congestion, 74.6% of respondents observes an increase in traffic congestion during the construction phases. It's the unavoidable immediate cost of building massive multi-level infrastructure in a dense city.
And for that 12.3% who are daily work commuters, what are their top challenges?
Their challenges are density and connectivity. Rush is the top issue at 33.6%, which is just the reality of a massive, thriving urban center. But right behind it is the critical issue of connectivity and last-mile problems at 32.8%.
That last mile problem is so crucial. If I get off the metro, but I can't easily and affordably get to my final destination, my office or my home, I'm still going to drive.
Exactly. The integration of the metro with existing public transportation buses, autos, cabs, is seen as far from seamless. Only 13.1% consider the integration 100% effective.
Wow, that's low.
The majority, 39.3%, rated it 75% effective, and a substantial 26.2% rated it only 50% effective. This policy gap in linking the metro to local transport networks is what limits its ability to fully transition from a leisure enabler to a dedicated commuting solution.
Also, the fact that 16.4% of users reported theft is a serious concern that points to security and management issues in crowded environments.
It points to the necessity of matching engineering excellence with operational safety and efficiency. And finally, when looking toward the future,
What do people want to see?
well, while 71.3% believe the metro has informed urban planning, nearly half of all respondents, 46.7%, feel the system needs much faster and more aggressive expansion to cover additional areas before it can truly solve Bengaluru's legendary congestion problems.
So, the Nama Metro is a success story in progress. It's a testament to what large-scale planning and investment can achieve. But the data shows the city's growth and its appetite for rapid transit is still outpacing the current phases.
And that last-mile connectivity is the immediate hurdle threatening to cap its overall efficacy.
The story of Bengaluru really is one of physical tension, isn't it? The technological success of East City and the metro stands in such stark relief against the struggle to maintain just a basic ecological balance.
It really does. And this brings us to the fight for the city's green heart, Cubbon Park.
Cubbon Park. We're talking 197 acres of vital urban green space. It's often compared to New York's Central Park or London's Hyde Park. But its origins are surprisingly utilitarian, almost accidental.
The park's existence is called a fortuitous outcome in our sources. It wasn't planned as an aesthetic centerpiece like, say, L'Elba was.
So how did it come to be?
It was created essentially to cover up geographical imperfections. There were slopes, rocks, and gravel pits around the newly constructed Atara Kacheri administrative building. They basically just planted trees to cover the blemishes.
And a magnificent urban oasis was born. It's a wonderful irony. Today, its benefits are invaluable, especially in combating the effects of the concrete jungle we were just discussing.
Its function today is crucial. It acts as the city's lung, significantly reducing air pollution and offering cleaner air. And critically, it lowers urban temperatures by a few degrees.
Providing necessary thermal relief.
In a very dense central business district, yes.
And its location, right near the core administrative buildings, the corridors of power. That's created what activists call a mixed blessing.
It makes the park accessible, visible, and protected by its proximity to the High Court. But that visibility also makes it perpetually vulnerable to encroachment and development pressure from those same powerful entities.
So its survival isn't guaranteed.
Preservation relies heavily on continuous court battles, on activist vigilance, and on dedicated heritage projects to stave off that development.
That struggle for Cubbon Park really symbolizes the larger slow-burn battle against development pressure. But the most immediate and painful failure of the city's environmental management is revealed when the clouds open up.
The annual flooding crisis.
Yeah.
And this is a devastating policy failure precisely because the claws have been known for a decade. The 2022 event provided horrific clarity on the scale of the crisis.
We're talking about an extreme, catastrophic rainfall event here.
The data is shocking. 79.2 millimeters of rainfall fell in just 2 days in September 2022. That represented a 1,660% excess compared to the average of 4.5 millimeters for that same period.
A 1,600% excess? The system was utterly overwhelmed.
Completely. And the most vulnerable areas were often the newest, highest-tech suburbs, right? The heavily developed, relatively flatter plains of southeast Bengaluru.
Localities like Bellandur, Mathahali, the Outer Ring Road area.
Exactly. These areas experienced explosive, often unplanned development, where construction simply paved over natural drainage channels and light beds.
But the most frustrating part of this entire tragedy is the official documentation proving this was a known flaw. This wasn't a surprise.
The vulnerability was flagged way back in 2013
10 years ago.
by the State Action Plan on Climate Change, or SAPCC. That plan explicitly noted the inadequacy of the city's stormwater drains, the SWDs, to handle even moderately heavy rain. 9 years before the disaster, policy experts had predicted failure.
And they knew that climate change would only make it worse, bringing heavier precipitation in shorter, more intense intervals.
So the gap wasn't a lack of knowledge, it was a total failure of implementation.
What did the SAPCC recommend? What were the solutions on paper?
The SAPCC provided clear structural recommendations to reduce flooding risk from the existing high level down to zero.
Like what?
They recommended mandating and enforcing rainwater harvesting for all large properties. They said to ensure existing drainages are meticulously cleaned before the monsoon starts, not during.
That seems obvious.
You'd think so. They also said to develop a precise rainfall runoff model to replace the empirical outdated sizing system and to revise all design guidelines.
These sound like logical, necessary structural solutions, so why weren't they implemented?
Because the planning documents remained, as the critics say, merely words on paper. The expert critique highlighted that the government often fails to refer to these comprehensive plans when they formulate new development policies or sanction projects.
There's a total disconnect.
A disconnect between high-level policy acceptance and low-level physical implementation.
We have a powerful anecdote that captures the systemic failure perfectly, the experience of the residents in the Rainbow Drive layout.
The Rainbow Drive layout is a devastating case study. The residents there, they were proactive and diligent. They had implemented internal rainwater harvesting and maintained their own sewage treatment plant. They did everything asked of them to manage water internally.
And they still flooded.
They still flooded severely.
Why? What was the reason for the failure?
The external, faulty stormwater drains failed to perform their basic function. Instead of carrying water away to the nearby lake, the faulty drains simply backed up and dumped all the excess water right back into their layout.
So this wasn't local negligence, it was systemic external failure.
Exactly. This highlights the crux of the urban infrastructure challenge. Individual responsibility cannot overcome foundational policy neglect.
And the critique from experts is clear. There has to be a financial imperative to force action.
They suggested that for the SAPCC and similar policies to be taken seriously, they need teeth. This should include mandatory estimations of the annual losses and damages incurred from urban flooding.
You mean put a price tag on the failure?
Quantify the road damage, the property loss, the business disruption. If the policymakers see a clear, growing financial penalty for their inaction, they will be forced to devise better contingency plans and invest in those essential drains.
So it's this incredible contrast. On one hand, you have the multi-layered engineering genius of the NAMA Metro, a high-cost, high-tech solution to gridlock that is achieving tangible success.
And on the other, you have the shockingly simple yet unaddressed failure of the most basic civic infrastructure, the storm drain system, which literally paralyzes the city every single year.
This deep dive really reveals Bengaluru as a city that is just constantly negotiating its identity and its physical limits.
It's in a state of constant negotiation. We've seen the ancient, climate-driven wisdom of Reiji and traditional cooling foods battling the relentless, high-speed demands of the electronic city tech ecosystem.
We've mapped the success of a complex, ambitious infrastructure solution, the NAMA Metro, which is fundamentally changing commuter behavior and delivering economic results, even if it's currently used more for leisure than for work.
It is a massive win for the city's future, no doubt. But that success is shadowed by the failure of the most foundational infrastructure.
The lack of robust stormwater drains.
A flaw identified nearly a decade ago. And it poses a greater threat to the city's long-term stability and economic viability than any traffic jam ever could.
The city's identity is defined by its versatility and its openness, its ability to absorb global tech trends, international flavors, millions of migrants. This versatility proves its capability to solve high-tech macro-scale problems with brilliant engineering.
Yet, we are left with this provocative contrast. Bengaluru is a global leader in high-tech innovation and software development. We know that the city is acutely self-aware of its drainage flaws.
They were documented, analyzed, and solved on paper back in 2013.
So the question for you, for the citizen and the policymaker, is profound.
What structural and political mechanism must change for policy, which is clearly articulated and accepted in planning documents like the SAPCC, to successfully translate into essential foundational physical infrastructure fixes?
How can a city that builds the world's most advanced software continue to fail to build robust, necessary drains. That dichotomy is the challenge for its next generation of leaders.